And welcome back into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. We are live once again. We are getting closer to the 2025 NFL trade deadline. No surprise, there's a lot of trade rumors, conversations to have on today's show. Producer Aiden, by the way, behind the scenes for today's video. One of the notable names who has been linked in trade, rumors, speculation, hopes, dreams, whatever you want to call it, is Jeffery Simmons. So what should the Titans do with Simmons, as they allegedly have told teams they're not going to trade him, but they start whipping around first-round picks. Maybe something changes. T for trade, K for keep. Let me know in the comment section of today's show, what should the Titans do with Jeffery Simmons? Trades from Mark Gabbert, Laura. Remember, sometimes it's T's because, you just want to have the team get the other guy. You want to add the talent, so to speak. Matthew says T. Peter has the abbreviation of Raider Nation for life, and then some other stuff mixed in there as well. Old So Blue says T for trade. Matthew says T. Get those votes in. What should the Titans do with Jeffery Simmons? T for trade, K for keep. Let me know in the comments of today's show. T for trade, K for keep. Chris says T. JT equals him says K for keep. Get those votes in. What should the Titans do with Jeffery Simmons? I'm going to make you wait to come on until we get to the Thursday Night Football one so you can take your victory lap there, Aiden. That's what I think we should do because you were right. You were very right. T for trade, K for keep. Let me know in the comments of today's show. We'll talk trades, of course, as well. Name a player who you think gets traded. Realistic names, please and thank you. It's not always the realistic ones who end up getting moved or not. So, T for trade. Sorry, that's the old one. A little bit groggy today. Name a player you think ends up getting moved. I'll give some shout-outs as these flow in. Pretty Ricky did mention Jermaine Johnson of the Jets. I think that's an intriguing name to monitor for anybody. No, of the Jets to anybody, as just a name to monitor. Laura says Trey Hendrickson. I don't know about that one. I think that the Bengals beating the Steelers kind of gives them hope to not sell. I do like Breece Hall as a name. Jackson Powers-Johnson also makes sense. Former high-round draft pick, just not playing great for the Raiders. Mark says Russell Wilson to the Colts. I actually don't hate that one because of the weird backup situation with Anthony Richardson getting hurt in warmups and now unavailable. Devontae Smith's not going to get moved. Garrett Wilson's not going to get moved. I don't think Maxx Crosby is going to get moved either. I know it was a fun couple hours here on social media. Anyone on Miami? So he says, hoping the Eagles find a quarterback too or O-line help. Well, that's not what you call Miami for. I think if you want an edge rusher, you should call Miami. Between Matthew Judon, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, I bet one of those guys ends up getting moved. Don't think DJ Moore gets moved for now. Wouldn't be shocked if down the line he ends up getting moved just because they're going to focus on Odunze and Luther Burden. Who is Ricky? That is the People's Insider, who is right a lot on these things. It's just kind of funny how often he ends up getting that one right. Mark Andrews is a fun name. I don't know if the Saints will actually trade Chris Olave, but I think they'd be able to get back something pretty good there. Pretty good. Anyone on the Titans? Yeah, I mean, I think outside of Cam Ward and reportedly Jeffery Simmons and a Tavondre Sweat and a Peter Skoronski and other young guys on rookie contracts, I don't think that they are going to be opposed to trading anybody on that roster. I think David Njoku is a good name too. Browns have some pieces at tight end. Harold Fannon's been super fun. That one I would not be surprised by. Waddle to the Commanders. The issue with that the Commanders face is they've invested big money in McLaurin and Debo, and to do it with Waddle was weird. And low-key, normally they have the young, new, up-and-coming team with the young quarterback. They're young. They're actually kind of old, the Commanders. They might be better off not doing that. Receiver makes sense for Denver, too. I could see some receiver movement. Demario Davis, if the Saints shop him, I think would be a good deal there. All right, Thursday Night Football, the pinned poll right now, by the way. Who you got? V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. 53% voting in favor of the Chargers. Producer Aiden has got it right back-to-back weeks with his prediction on Thursday Night Football. So, Aiden, if you want to adjust your mic, who do you have winning on Thursday night this week?
I'm going to go ahead and rock with the Chargers on this one, just because I feel like the Vikings quarterback room is a little dicey. Last I checked, both JJ and Wentz were like limited participants in practice.
It's going to be Wentz starting.
Right, and so I feel even less confident about that. Chargers have looked weird in these last few weeks, like not at all what I thought they were to start the season, but I still trust Justin Herbert. Still like what they're cooking there. But, yeah, I just want a victory lap a little bit because I was saying Bengals, I was saying Flacco, and I was saying T. Higgins resurgence. All three happened. I said G-Men the week before over the Eagles. Not only did both teams cover, they won. So I just wanted to hop on here and talk my shit.
I was a little mad you kind of undercut me on the Bengals upset because I did have a bet on that too.
Such a fun game, though.
It was a great game. It was a great game. Hopefully get another good one. This, I think, does have potential to be a good Thursday Night Football matchup. Who do you got? V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Chris says V, Shelly says C, Selly says C, Mr. Donks says C. Laura makes a good point. V because they have the better defense. Both teams are not that healthy at spots. You know, quarterback for Minnesota, obviously. The Chargers, a lot of other areas. I am excited to see this one play out. You know, Aaron Jones might be back for Minnesota. We'll see. They opened up his 21-day practice window. We'll see if he ends up returning or not. But who you got? V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. It is not, Chris says you jinxed his Eagles with the damn Giants. He did. Like, I guess it was a jinx so much as he, actively rooted against you, right? Who you got? V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Remember to get your questions in, by the way, using hashtag NFL. If you are excited for some action at this year's NFL trade deadline, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed. Because Schefter had said that the NFL was going to have a bunch of action on Mondays and Tuesdays, and he was right on that Monday, and then since then it's been very quiet, and I would like to see some more action get going. There is more time before the trade deadline in early November 4th, that Tuesday, so we have 2+ weeks until we get some developments, potentially, but I think it'd be fun if we got some action, because Chris is right. Disappointed it's been crickets so far. Give me the trades. Give me the chaos. That's always entertaining. Coming up on today's show, we will discuss the latest from Ian Rapoport on some NFL trade rumors. We'll also discuss the Maxx Crosby situation with all the chaos that's gone on there in like a 5-hour window somewhere in that ballpark. Get your questions in, or trade ideas or thoughts, questions, whatever, via hashtag NFL. I saw a lot of fun, just like names and trade ideas and everything else on that front. So get your questions in via hashtag NFL, or you can skip the line altogether via Super Chat. That's hashtag NFL, or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Ricky already deleted the tweet, by the way, or deleted his account. It's what he's been doing. He's just been like bouncing in, sending a tweet, staying for 15 minutes, and then just leaving. It's all he's been doing. It's very, but it's the same, it's the same formatting of like the font and everything, so it's pretty real there. Get your questions, ideas, thoughts, whatever it is in via hashtag NFL for our mailbag. We'll also run through Mel Kiper's 2026 quarterback prospects rankings, all coming up live here on NFL Daily. The NFL trade deadline is rapidly approaching, so we are here to discuss some of the key NFL trade rumor updates that came in from Ian Rapoport. We'll also mention the Maxx Crosby stuff here later on in this video. It has been, as of filming, pretty quiet since we had the day of the Joe Flacco trade and everything else that went on that day. How many NFL trades will happen before the NFL trade deadline? Let me know in the comments section of today's show how many trades end up happening here before the NFL trade deadline. Let's go to what Ian Rapoport had to say on the trade rumors that exist out there across the NFL. We're going to begin with what he said on Jeffery Simmons, saying seemingly everyone called the Titans to see if the star defensive tackle was available ahead of the league's November 4th trade deadline. Those interested were told clearly that Simmons is not available. Simmons, just 28 years old with 2 years left on his contract, is likely to get a massive extension this offseason in Tennessee, as he is among the pieces to build around for the future, along with rookie Cam Ward and some others. For example, not mentioned by Rap, but like a Peter Skoronski, a Tavondre Sweat, etc. I do think that, like, from the Titans' perspective, if you want to have a good piece on defense who's still fairly young, holding on to him makes some sense. And that also makes a ton of sense for other NFL franchises to call Tennessee when you get a bunch of chaos and turnover. That's what smart teams do. That's what good GMs do. Like, hey, can we take advantage of the turmoil and get a really good player on our hands? So I am not surprised teams called. I am not overly surprised the Titans, at least for now, are saying they're not going to trade Jeffery Simmons. I think that's at least one to monitor until the extension happens. And then once it happens, no, but until then, I think it is worth monitoring. So what do you think the Titans should do with Jeffery Simmons? T for trade, K for keep. If you want to just root for your favorite team to get Jeffery Simmons, I get that as well. Let me know in the comments, T for trade or K for keep. Some additional Titans trade candidates specifically mentioned by Rapoport. Roger McCreary, who I like. He's getting due for a new contract in the near future. He's a little bit undersized. He's not going to fit every team, but I liked him quite a bit coming out of Auburn. I think he can be a starting caliber nickel corner for you in an NFL team. And if you don't mind the arm length, you can try him on the outside some too. Arden Key and Draymond Jones, edge rushers, veteran players who, if you want a dude at edge, this is not their guy. But if you're looking for a third edge, or if you're a team like the Niners, for example, and you're desperate for help, those are names to certainly consider calling. Let's go to the Cowboys. A, what Rapoport said on their plans, and B, the Maxx Crosby trade chaos that developed today. Jerry Jones has said repeatedly he's open for business. He wants teams to call them, but Rapoport says that right now those have been exploratory at best, i.e. the Cowboys are not the one making a bunch of calls. And that's pretty standard business procedure for the Dallas Cowboys, that this is a franchise that they don't believe in making the call first because, that puts them in a negative spot. Although at times they will still make that first call. The report earlier this morning from Trey Wingo was that the Cowboys have made inquiries with the Raiders about a potential trade for Maxx Crosby. Since then, other Cowboys reporters, for example, Clarence Hill, have debunked that, saying the Cowboys did not call. And then very briefly, the People's Insider, Slick Rick, a.k.a. Ricky Scoops, made his return to social media and then again deactivated like 15 minutes later, says that the Raiders are not going to be trading Maxx Crosby before the deadline. I think the biggest thing here is any Crosby trade, hypothetically, would be extremely expensive. He's under contract for like 5 more years with the Raiders, or including this year. They don't need to trade him. He's got the Raiders tattooed on him. I don't think the Raiders want to move Maxx Crosby. Now, that could change in a year or 2 years or whatever if the Raiders continue to lose games, but I've never really thought a midseason trade of Maxx Crosby was all that likely. Now, today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. It is simple to play. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Get your picks right, you could cash in. One football Sunday PrizePicks lineup. Saquon, how about more than a touchdown? We get the revenge game going again there, and doubly for the entire team, frankly. Revenge game, Aaron Rodgers, more than passing yards. Jordan Love, more than passing attempts after we watched Joe Flacco have a lot of success through the air against that Steelers defense. PrizePicks also offers stacks. Pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. If you want to pick more than on, say, Josh Allen passing yards, rush yards, and touchdowns, you can do it on PrizePicks. You can even do the flex play instead of the power play. The flex play doesn't pay out as much, but it does allow you to get one wrong and still cash out. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Let's move to the Dolphins' plans here. What are they thinking about doing? I will make note, the Rapoport article came before Sunday's game, which only makes it more likely that they're going to sell this year. Let's begin with Jalen Waddle. Rap saying teams have called Miami about Jalen Waddle, but the Dolphins do not want to trade him. I think that is understandable. He's young. He's talented. There might be a new quarterback coming down the pipeline for the Miami Dolphins. So trading away your best receiver when you're almost assuredly going to move on from Tyreek Hill this offseason might not be how they want to handle business. I do, again, get why teams are calling. But it wasn't as productive last year. The production has dipped. The offense in general hasn't been as good, but I do think Waddle was one of the better receiver 2s or 1Bs, if you want to put it that way, with other guys like Jordan Addison, Pickens, T. Higgins all fit in that mold. Waddle's damn good. Specific trade candidates mentioned by Rap include 3 different edge rushers: Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, and Matthew Judon. I would be a little bit surprised if at least one of these guys was not moved. Bradley Chubb was recently extended by the Miami Dolphins. There isn't a lot of salary cap savings for the Dolphins to pursue Chubb, or a Chubb trade. He's also under contract for several more years. They could wait on that one, but he is getting up there in age, so maybe they want to capitalize now. I wouldn't sleep on a Jalen Phillips trade. He's in his 5th-year option. He's a little bit expensive right now. There's also the pressure rate is pretty solid and has been impactful, and you wonder, is this guy going to continue to kind of, put up some big-time numbers on that front? I would not be shocked if a Jalen Phillips trade ends up happening, and he puts up 5 sacks with his new team once he gets dealt. That actually wouldn't surprise me at all. If I'm a team like the Niners, I'm calling about him. Matthew Judon is a veteran player, but he was unsigned for a while. I'd be a little bit surprised if he fetched more than a late day 3 pick or a day 3 pick swap. So of these 3 guys, which a Judon trade makes a ton of sense for Miami, but is there interest? Who is most likely to be traded by the Dolphins? BC for Bradley Chubb, JP for Jalen Phillips, MJ for Matthew Judon. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Let's get to the Jets. Hey, looking at teams that are bad and are selling. That certainly makes some sense, right? A couple different trade candidates mentioned by Ian Rapoport. Breece Hall is first up here. That is the Jets running back, which, if you want to stock up on Isaiah Davis fantasy stock, might not be the worst idea to do it early there. Hall's been, I think, solid this year. The success rate's a bit inconsistent. He's had some big-time runs, but, he's on pace to get to 1,000 yards this year. I remember 2 years ago when the Jets thought they got him there and didn't do the math right, because that organization is, it's the Jets. And not to be mean, but that is how it goes there. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets dealt. Michael Carter, the cornerback, mentioned by Rapoport. They made the trade for, I'm drawing a blank on the guy. The trade they made with the Titans, which was kind of interesting. But Carter's the nickel corner. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., thank you, producer Aiden, could be taken over long-term at nickel. They can get something back for him, knowing he's a bit banged up right now. That actually does make some sense for a selling team. The big name to monitor here is Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher, who I like a lot. Jordan Schultz mentioning that teams are monitoring him as well. Pretty Ricky mentioning the Jets could be shopping him. Banged up a lot in 2024, only played 2 games. Seemed like he had that breakout campaign in 2023. He's under contract next year at a fairly reasonable, about $13 million. If you're a team in the market for an edge rusher, this is a really intriguing name to keep an eye out for, because he's pretty much cheaper and under more team control than Jalen Phillips. I think this is a name to certainly monitor as we move forward closer to the trade deadline. If you want more NFL trade deadline content, you've come to the right spot. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Free NFL YouTube videos and NBA stuff too, and college football every single day. Jakobi Meyers trade. This one I don't think is going to be a surprise to anybody if it ends up happening. Rapoport mentioning Meyers again. He requested a trade back in the offseason. He was, and I'm going to read this off verbatim because it just came across the wire here, on if he wants to be traded. Oh, for sure. I'm a professional at the end of the day. I'm just trying to play good football. But he does still want to be traded, which isn't a surprise. The Raiders are bad. And this player does not have the same allegiance that, say, a Maxx Crosby potentially has. So I think a team like the Steelers, a team like the Patriots in a reunion, a team that is in the market for more wide receiver help. I don't know if Denver would do an intra-division trade, but any of those teams certainly make sense for probably one of the more available wide receivers at the deadline. So name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. We mentioned wide receiver, and I would not be surprised if the Steelers we have nothing else available. It's just Allen Lazard, because Aaron Rodgers, of course. The Steelers wanting a wide receiver should surprise nobody. They've been in the market before the DK Metcalf trade, and then again when they traded away George Pickens. They want another wide receiver. I think Meyers could be a pretty fun fit as well. He's actually inside-outside flex, which helps you if you're going to do a bunch of multi-tight end personnel. I would not be surprised if the Steelers could find a wide receiver. I'd be calling about Meyers if I were them. The Ravens are in the market for defensive help, per Rapoport. I don't think Baltimore is out in terms of trying to compete. They did do the Odafe Owe Alohi Gilman trade, which was super interesting, but I think a big part of that, which is again, they've done this. Man, we got to get Kyle Hamilton back in the nickel. They keep on doing that. They were getting some not good play out of their nickel corner options, and by trading for Alohi Gilman, it allows them to run Gilman and Malachi Starks at safety, and it gets Marlon Humphrey out of the nickel corner spot, allows him to play with Nate Wiggins on the outside. Jair Alexander, the Chidobe Awuzie combo, hasn't been what I think those teams were hoping for. Or those players, I should say, were even hoping for. So I would not be surprised if they pursue, maybe they go find a front seven player to help them out. And then there's the Anfernee Jennings trade possibility, which this one felt like the Patriots asking Rap to put his name out there. It's 7 tackles this year. He hasn't been overly impactful. He's 2 years removed from being a good run-setting base edge. Yeah, if he's your third or fourth edge, it's probably fine. Again, I keep mentioning them. The Niners are so decimated by injuries, they could make some sense. But it seemed like the Ravens or the Cowboys were maybe they don't need a guy, they need the guy. Maybe aren't as intriguing. It's mailbag time here on NFL Daily. 2 ways to get in on the show. Number 1, use hashtag NFL or guarantee that you get on via a super chat. It's hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether via super chat. Excuse me, son. Very congested, so I apologize for that, folks. Had some hashtag NFL questions come in already. Let's get some more. That way we can have a fun show. Any ideas, thoughts, trade ideas? Real quick response here. We go. Any ideas you have, thoughts, suggestions, ideas, just general comments on the NFL. The mailbag is just as much mine as it is yours. So I see whatever it is in there. Scott's got some ideas. I've seen Matthew and others. If you don't use the hashtag NFL, producer Chris or producer Aiden is going to be unable to find your question. So Amir, the Lions fan, we will get to your question off the top. Still on the top. I always love giving the super chat love over there. Appreciate that, Amir. We'll get to you as part of today's show. Any hashtag or any super chats. Any super chats we will feature you on. Get yourself into the queue via hashtag NFL. As your questions come in, I'm going to quickly tweet out the Maxx Crosby update that we did here very quickly before we went live. That's why we were 2 minutes behind. I wanted to do it real quick. And shout out Trizzy Trace for helping us out on that front since there was extremely tight window of time to make that happen. So get your questions in. There we go. I'm trying to go quick and do multiple things here. Dream. Pipe dream. There we go. Use hashtag NFL, skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Carol and Reaper, appreciate your questions. We have room for more, so get them in via hashtag NFL, skip the line altogether via Super Chat. We'll also get William Cook's $5 Super Chat in on the show as well as I post the tweet. There we go. Let's get into today's mailbag. A $2 super chat from Amir, the Lions fan. Do you think the Lions go get a pass rusher or a corner? I would not be surprised. Al-Quadin Muhammad has been a revelation for the Lions, for a guy that was out of football, essentially. Didn't make the Cowboys roster, now having an incredible season. I think, and this is kind of like pipe dreamy, the ideal outcome for Detroit is I would love to find someone who's a bigger-bodied edge to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. I would love to find someone that, in the Cam Jordan mold, although maybe not Cam Jordan himself, who can be a base-setting edge and then kick inside on third downs. Tyreek Williams, DJ Reader are not elite pass rushers. Aleem McNeil's return is pretty impactful there. But if you have to settle for a speedier edge rusher, I would not complain there. And then given the sheer volume of injuries in the secondary this Lions team has faced, which is unbelievable. Look, I'll be honest, I have no life. It takes a lot for me to be like, who the hell is that guy? I don't know who Eric Hallett is. That one was a deep cut and was out there starting for the Lions and got run over. I think it was on the first play of the game. Secondary piece, they'll get Ryan Branch back from suspension. That matters. I think Lions adding defensive help is honestly almost a must move because they have as good of a shot as anybody to win the NFC. $5 from William Cook says, Jerry won't trade 2 firsts, not because it is not worthy of it. This is in reference to the Maxx Crosby trade rumors that have been out there, but because it's a tacit admission he shouldn't have traded Micah. A lot of Cowboys fans didn't like the idea that Mitch and I had collaborated 2 firsts for Maxx Crosby plus maybe some change. I am of the mindset in general, if you were going to be able to essentially flip, Micah Parsons into Maxx Crosby and Kenny Clark and extra salary cap space, that's actually not bad at all. That's actually probably a win for the Cowboys. But I think the Raiders don't want to trade Maxx Crosby. That's why the asking price that we came up with was so high, because he's really good at football, and the Raiders don't want to do that. I would be a little surprised in the end if the Cowboys flip 2 1s. They love their draft picks so much. Maybe if it was a bit less than that, but I would be. I don't think it happens anyway, but it was fun. D. White the Gamer, who do you believe the Broncos should trade for? I know some Broncos fans don't like the wide receiver 2 spot, which I get. I don't know if Jalen Waddle's actually available, although that'd be so much fun for Sean Payton. I think a lot of this for Denver kind of comes down to what version of Bo Nix do you get? You get the first 3 quarters against the Giants, Bo Nix, you're kind of in trouble. You get the 4th quarter version of Bo Nix, shit, you might win every game this year. You'll get Dre Greenlaw back from his suspension, which refs aren't people, so should he have been suspended? I don't see a ton of massive glaring holes on this Denver team. I think it's, can you get more out of Nix right now? I do worry a little bit at times about the interior of that offensive line, but there's not a lot of great guards and centers and whatnot who end up being available. So maybe, can you get a receiver? Is Jakobi Meyers on the block? That might be enough of a little boost as you wait for potential breakouts from Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims beyond just kind of a gadgety guy. Connor, Trey Hendrickson trade odds. Apologies for the sniffles. I would say extremely low. I think that, I never really thought they were going to trade him. As bad as it was, they were going to harbor hope. When they made the move for Flacco, it was okay, this is a team that doesn't want to roll over and die. You're not going to trade for a quarterback and then get rid of your best pass rusher. And then you went out and you beat the Steelers, thanks not really very much to your defense that allowed 31 points and wasn't getting very many pressures. You're going to get Hendrickson back in theory this week. Now you got to feel like we can go push and hold the fort down until Burrow comes back. So I think they're pretty low. Lose the Jets, we can revisit next week, and we will revisit next week if they lose. So what will the Bengals do with Trey Hendrickson? T for trade, K for keep. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. From Cobb, nope, which might be something spelled backward, but I'm not actually sure. I doubt it. In a hypothetical trade, a first, a third, and DeRon Bland for Crosby. I think the Raiders would love that deal. I would be a little surprised if the Cowboys did it because they literally just paid him. The Raiders still might be looking for a little bit more because I don't think they want to trade Maxx Crosby either. But I will say this. I appreciate you giving up value here. I saw a lot of trade ideas of a second and Sam Williams, which, like, come on, that doesn't move the needle at all. The biggest issue the Cowboys would run into is, well, I guess they wouldn't really lose any money by trading away Bland, but they wouldn't save any. So they're just kind of like, wasting $5 million this year and $17 million next year. It's not necessarily ideal for them on that front. But I do appreciate you giving up a good player to make something happen, and that's not always. It's like a lot of bad fantasy trades in my mentions these days. From Carol, not in HR. What other moves you see the Eagles making return of Brandon Graham? I hope Carol understands the joke since it is always sunny in Philadelphia reference there. I think cornerback, like that should probably be what they're trying to pursue if they can find one. Probably a little bit easier said than done. Like if I were Philadelphia, I'd be pushing pretty hard for Tariq Woolen right now. It seems to be on the outside looking in. I know he played against Monday Night Football, but there were injuries there. I don't want to keep doing the Adoree Jackson, Keely Ringo experiment if I were the Eagles. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. So that's what I'd be calling about. Like, I'd be shopping, trying to get another corner and, getting Jackson, Ringo, whatever off the field, letting it be Mitchell, DeJean, and you have some money if you want to spend the defense there. I think corner is the obvious target. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. You can now follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab. PrizePicks also offers stacks. So, for example, if you wanted to go more than Saquon Barkley, rushing yards, receiving yards, and touchdowns, you could do that. Our, shout out to producer Aiden, PrizePicks lineup is Saquon revenge touchdown, Aaron Rodgers revenge passing yards against Green Bay, Jordan Love more than passing attempts. Go download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. From the aptly named Bears Williams, any players for the Bears to trade for in terms of pass rushers? He also mentioned someone like Jalen Phillips. If I were a pass rush needy team, I'm calling the Jets and the Dolphins first, like of the realistically available names, and going, what do you want for Jermaine Johnson? Maybe a Will McDonald's available. What do you want for Jalen Phillips? What about Bradley Chubb? And if the prices aren't right there, I can pivot back to okay, what's the cost for an Arden Key over in Tennessee? Do you want to do the rehab path with a Tyree Wilson in Las Vegas? Chicago getting one more pass rusher would be nice. I'd also say offensive line, but it's really hard to find offensive line in October / early November, so I wouldn't get my hopes up there. Edge, I think, could very well be possible. From Moggs, Derrick Henry has about a year or two left max. How do you feel about Breece Hall getting traded to the Ravens as insurance and failure in the future back to avoid developing a drafted running back? Well, here's the issue. Short term, I think that makes some sense. Breece Hall is the best insurance possible. I don't know if you need the insurance. Derrick Henry's still averaging 5 yards per carry this year, which is more than what he averaged in Tennessee up until 2020, or back until 2020. I think there's a real chance The Derrick Henry is just the exception the same way Adrian Peterson was, where even though he is beyond his prime as a running back age-wise, he should have, at his workload, he should have been cooked 4 years ago, and he's not. He might be the exception. Now, I actually don't mind drafting a running back because I think you can develop those guys kind of quickly. I don't mind that being the path that the Ravens end up pursuing, because the big issue with Breece Hall is he's going to be a free agent. So if you're trading for Breece Hall, you're going to pay him or let him walk, and then, or is this the year to have insurance, 4th round pick, 5th round pick, whatever, at the backfield spot? And are you going to pay Hall and Henry? I'm not so sure. From Marty, how about a Calvin Ridley trade? Giants or Steelers, maybe? Man, Calvin Ridley's in a really weird spot where he has not played well this year. How much of that was the offense's fault? Just in general, I don't know. I had pretty high hopes for Calvin Ridley, being impactful. And he was against the Cardinals. 5 catches, 131 yards. He's got 16 for 290 in total this season. He just hasn't been impactful. He's also a little bit expensive. Let me double check my math here and make sure I'm not reading it off incorrectly. Contract-wise, and the prorated figure, just depending on when they trade him exactly, he's at $22.5 million this year. So cut that number in half roughly. Who wants to pay $10, $11, $12 million for a receiver of Calvin Ridley's caliber for half a season? I think there might be some issues there unless Titans eat the money, which maybe they do. Giants, I actually don't hate that fit. It's just he's 31 years old now. He's been inconsistent. There's some downside there. Name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Name a player who you think ends up getting dealt. Eric Simmons, will the Dolphins move on from Tua after this season? I think that they might. I also would not be surprised at all. I'm going to double check my math here on the fly again. The issue that the Dolphins face is this would be pretty darn similar to the Russell Wilson path, where it is doable, but it blows. If they were to cut Tua and they'd make him a post-June 1st cut, it's a $67 million dead cap charge in 2026. And it's 31.8 in 2027. That blows. It's $99 million in dead cap. And that is in large part because I think his 2026 salary is already guaranteed. Let me double check that. Maybe it's not. Oh, yeah, it is. It is guaranteed already. It had rolling guarantee structures. But I honestly wouldn't be shocked if they did it. Because, if they're just going to be bad, who cares? At that point, just be bad, play Quinn Ewers for a year, and rebuild with a new regime. So it's expensive, but yeah, I would not be surprised if the Dolphins moved on. It's kind of getting to that point. If you want to be a part of future NFL mailbags, hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. We're live once a week, plus watch parties, red zone, and more. Hit that sub button if you haven't already done so. We're free, and we always will be here at Chat Sports. So appreciate everyone who has already subscribed. CGW, available linebackers for Dallas. Wouldn't be shocked if Jerry just says, we're going to get DeMarvion Overshown back. It's fine. We don't have to do anything there. You could call his Devin Bush in a resurgent year available with the Browns. Would the Dolphins ship out Jordan Brooks? He's a bit expensive. I could see Logan Wilson being available. He's kind of been phased out a little bit with the Bengals, also a team captain, so give and take on that area. I don't know if Quincy Williams is truly available with the Jets, and I also don't know how it would be if how Quinn would feel about the brother trade, but I think those are names to at least consider on that front. And also, no Micah reunion there, bud. Sorry. Mr. Donks, think the Rams trade for anybody? I'm going to go with no, actually. And normally I always give the hope of a possible trade there. I like, I think they'd be a great fit for Tariq Woolen, but, like, I don't think the Seahawks are going to trade him in division necessarily. Corner still stands out as an area of concern to me. Not a ton of great corners available, I don't think, right now. I also think for the Rams, like, I think they've done and I give them credit for this, I think they've done a really good job of, like, balancing things. Like, they can be aggressive if they want. They don't have to. They have 2 first-round picks next year, and this might be Matt Stafford's last season. Like, they might be okay keeping all them picks. From Tina, should the Browns trade David Njoku? Would not be opposed to it. How they juggle their love of 2 tight end personnel if they were to trade away Njoku. They obviously have Harold Fannin as a long-term piece, but Blake Whiteheart does not really move the needle for you. But I think Fannon's the future at tight end, so if you can get an asset back, I would not mind that at all. Give me your trade ideas in the comments section of today's show. Let me know in the comments of today's video. Keep them realistic, please, but let me know what your trade ideas are. 70s born, 90s swag. Vikings trade for Jeffery Simmons. Honestly, I kind of like what the Vikings are getting out of their defensive line play. They invested a decent amount, relatively speaking, in Jonathan Allen, in Javon Hargrave. Both those guys, of course, play that in that 3-4-ish front. They play that the same role Jeffery Simmons would end up playing for them. I know Allen has been maybe a bit of a disappointment, same with Hargrave, but I think Jalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez have been not household names at all, but very good players for Minnesota. I maybe could always go back to go to the corner well again if you wanted to, and stop him to give occasional snaps, I should say, to Jeffrey Okudah and playing 3 safeties all the time. But I don't know if defensive tackle is where I would pursue for the Vikings side. Speaking of the Vikings, who you got on Thursday Night Football? V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. 56% voting in favor of the Vikings. So get those votes in. V or C. We'll give some shout-outs as these flow in. I think Bears-Williams' trade ideas. Bears trade a 4th for Jalen Phillips or a 3rd for Jermaine Johnson. I think it's pretty reasonable. I think you can make it those teams to say yes. It's trades. You never really know what the market looks like, but I don't mind that one. Skyler, confirming he is producer Jeremy Chuggs' burner account, says a tie. I hate ties. I think they're profoundly un-American. Chargers are at home, by the way. They're 3.5-point favorites in this one. We shall see if they get Aaron Jones back, but it does sound like another week that will feature Carson Wentz at the quarterback spot. Chargers line has gone up from 2.5 to 3.5 on that front there. Papi Chulo sits. What is going on with Travion Henderson? Kind of feels like he's in the doghouse a little bit. That's what it feels like, which is kind of weird to me because, Ramondre Stevenson keeps fumbling too. Henderson played 9 snaps for the Patriots last week. Ramondre Stevenson played 49. Terrell Jennings. Who's that, you say? Yeah, he had 5. 8 snaps. Now, that game was also a blowout, so, asterisk it. But I feel like he's in the doghouse a little bit. I don't really know. I don't know why. But I know Vrabel said post game it was just how it played out. Ramondre was going well, and he still likes Henderson, but I don't know. It's weird. Maybe he's just not ready yet. I don't know. I am surprised by his overall lack of usage this season because he played 30 against the Bills and was involved a little bit, but then that was all pass catching stuff, and his snap count has dropped 2 weeks in a row. It's weird. He had a much better pass blocking game last week. There was just the 1 rep, but kind of slow to start on that front is probably a factor too. Excuse me. All right, who you got? V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. I see Carey says Tom Downey and Mozzie Smith to the Eagles for Jeremy Chuggs and Big Dom. Why is Big Dom and Mozzie? Who wins that trade? Let me know. I don't. Aiden's asking Sam Williams and a 3rd for Phillips. So the Cowboys don't have a 3rd. That is issue number 1 because they traded it away. So we'll do 4th and Phillips. I don't know if anyone wants Sam Williams. Someone had tweeted out, another content creator had tweeted out, did anyone else notice Sam Williams' snap count got reduced? And I said, this is a damning indictment because it did not. He actually played the second most snaps among edges. You just didn't notice him. A lot of times, it kind of comes back to the old. I tweeted out like, I get a great defensive player. You get a player I don't want and a crappy draft pick. You got to give up value to get value. Like, it's funny to me of like, I tweeted out Mitch and I. Oh yeah, there it is. You got the meme. Look at that. There you go. I tweeted out. Carrie says I'm stuck here. I'm happy to be here. I tweeted out the Mitch's trade idea of like 2 firsts and a 4th, whatever, for Maxx Crosby, and a lot of Cowboys fans said hell no. And then the report came out that the Raiders aren't going to trade Maxx Crosby. And they're like, why would they do this? I'm like, well, because you didn't want to make the offer to get him to say yes. You can't have it both ways. You either overpay or don't trade for him. And if you don't pay, that's fine. That's fine. But there's a reason you don't see a lot of big blockbuster trades. It's just not how the NFL typically does business. So if you have any more Super Chats, get them in. We'll get to our final segment here on today's NFL Daily. Mel Kiper dropped his 2026 NFL Draft Big Board last week, and we have yet to break down the top quarterbacks on his list. Now, this was a week ago, but one game shouldn't drastically change how the quarterback outlook looks. So we'll break it down for you on today's video. Unlike ESPN Plus, our NFL draft coverage is free here on Chat Sports. So help us out by sharing today's video so other people can tune in, lock in, and watch all of our NFL draft coverage here at Chat Sports. So number 1 for Mel Kiper's quarterback rankings is Dante Moore, the Oregon quarterback, who was, by the way, his number 1 overall player. And I like Dante Moore. That seems a little bit rich for me. He was not great at UCLA. I think the situation wasn't good either. Like, there was a lot of issues there for Dante Moore. Not coming off of his best big game, I'll say. I'll clarify it that way. With the performance against Indiana where he just didn't look comfortable. Looked a hell of a lot better against Rutgers, though. Had himself a nice bounce-back game. I was a little surprised to see Mel Kiper list Dante Moore as his number 1 overall player in the 2026 NFL Draft. There's plenty of things to like, but a common trend in general with this quarterback class is it's kind of a small sample size. So how does that fit in with Dante Moore? And I think it's very early to anoint him as the best player. I don't know if he's going to go pro. And frankly, I am kind of going back to the Bill Parcells roots of I want to see you start a bunch of years in college. And I want you to have that experience because I think it does benefit you in the long run, even if, Oregon's offense isn't necessarily the most pro-friendly. Better than Lane Kiffin's offense, which is Mickey Mouse, but super fun. Number 2, Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana, the Cal transfer. Indiana's doing more RPO stuff this year, but they've still done actual middle-of-the-field vertical shot stuff. Cal's offense did some real quarterbacking, and like Mendoza will go through reads. Not that other quarterbacks don't, all of them, but there are several quarterbacks who man, it's first read and run. It's half-field reads, which makes so much sense for college, but it's such a different game when you get to the NFL. That was honestly Malik Willis. It was his issue. He did not do real reads, didn't attack the middle of the field, and he's had a very slow development curve as a result. Mendoza, he has more experience. If I had to pick a quarterback right now who I actually think is going to go pro, I think there are some big question marks on other guys, make a real argument for Mendoza number 1, even if that's not necessarily the sexiest name in this year's class. Number 3 is Ty Simpson, and this is where the experience kind of raises some red flags. He has barely played football, at the college level, but he's been so good this year. Ty Simpson's been dealing for Alabama. He has repeatedly made big-time plays, Tennessee and Missouri, ranked opponents. 3 TDs, no interceptions. 2 TDs, no interceptions. Did throw one against Vanderbilt, but he's got 20 total touchdowns. He's had some fumbles. Those are some red flags as well, but threw for 340 yards against Vanderbilt, 276 against Georgia. Schedule continues with some tough games, but that's kind of all we have to judge him on, unless you want to try to go judge him on, some previous year campaigns, they subbed him in late against South Florida back in 2023 and was actually okay, but took 5 sacks in that game. Coach's kid fits that mold there. I've been impressed. He makes some big-time plays, but he's still also very inexperienced. Who do you think will be the first quarterback drafted in 2026? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Remember earlier how I mentioned I would kind of want to see some of these quarterbacks go back to school, not turn pro? That's LaNorris Sellers. I think he would significantly benefit from going back to school and, frankly, going to a different program. I don't want to be overly mean to Mike Shula, but, maybe we shouldn't be having Mike Shula be our coordinator in the year of our Lord 2025. Like, that doesn't sound like a very good idea for me. Sellers' numbers do not pop off the screen. The touchdowns are down. He takes too many sacks. Part of that is the supporting structure around him. I would love to see him hit the portal, go to a team that'll give him a little bit more like real quarterbacking stuff, put him in a better situation, and let him be the dynamic dual threat that he has shown in flashes he can be. Otherwise, we're kind of like, we're in what, year 2 of like the upside, and that scares me because you could be Anthony Richardson. Maybe you're Josh Allen, but more often than not, you're Logan Thomas. So should LaNorris Sellers turn pro? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Apologies for the sniffles, gang. John Mateer, number 5, is next up here on the list. Super fun player. The consistency is maybe never going to be there. I will say, though, man, he wasn't healthy. He was not, I think it was pretty obvious. He was not healthy for Oklahoma against Texas. I applaud him trying to get out there and grit through it, and I don't think he was that healthy against South Carolina either, and that's kind of why they dial back some of the rushing, and, only the last 2 games haven't been as good for John Mateer. From a production standpoint, it was not good against Texas. He just can't quite throw it with the same velocity he normally has, which makes the eval a little bit complicated. He's fun. He's an awesome college QB. I just, there is some Baker to his attitude in a good way, but, the touchdown turnover ratio is kind of heading in the wrong direction as of late. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks. You can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So if you want to take more than, let's say, Josh Allen, rushing yards, passing yards, TDs, you can do it. Saquon Barkley, more than rushing yards, receiving yards, and TDs. This week, thanks to producer Aiden, we've got Saquon more than a half TD, Aaron Rodgers' revenge game more than passing yards, Jordan Love more than pass attempts. Also, check out the feed feature on PrizePicks. The feed tab lets you follow other PrizePicks players directly in the app and copy their lineups in one simple click. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Number 6 is Carson Beck, and I don't want to buy into that guy because I have never been a huge Carson Beck fan, but I think we're running into the issues that, frankly, we saw at Georgia, where he doesn't have an overwhelming physical skill set. And if you don't have an overwhelming physical skill set, you can't be turnover guy. And that's what he is. 11 TDs, 7 interceptions passing. There were some questionable comments like, I don't know, like he's not wrong. The receiver ran the wrong route in the final play, but like, should you say that publicly? Like Georgia fans will tell you that that was an issue for the Bulldogs. I don't see the upside for Carson Beck, and I see too many mistakes to justify that downside. Number 7 is Garrett Nussmeier. I don't think he's healthy. He is not throwing the same way he did last year. His numbers are down as a result. But he's not dynamic mobile either, which I think is worth mentioning here. This is fine. He's also got 15% too much of the bad Tony Romo in him, where like he will just make mistakes. He'll throw a bad pass. He'll just not see the guy dropping directly into his passing window. Again, the way he plays, where he doesn't have an overwhelming arm, it's not bad. It's good enough. He doesn't have the mobility. There's so little margin for error. I think we're seeing some of those issues crop up this year for Nussmeier. Hopefully he gets healthy. LSU ain't out of it. Can he guide them to a run down the stretch? Number 8, Sam Leavitt, Arizona State's quarterback. This is like the lesser version of John Mateer. He's a fun college QB, man. He's running around, making plays, backyard football nonsense. But at a certain point, I do need to see you consistently win within structure. Leavitt has some fun tools, the arm strength, the mobility, but the accuracy comes and goes. And I can't have you just like bail on a clean pocket, go do something else, try to make a crazy play. I do need to see a little bit more consistency from that. And that's why I would like to see Leavitt also go back to school. Let's get to 420K. Get it? 420? Nice? Yeah. Hit that sub button here on Chat Sports or on NFL Draft YouTube channel if you're watching over there. Hit that sub button if you haven't already done so. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Number 9, Jaden Maiava, who I've been impressed by. Much better this past season than what it was last year for USC, the former UNLV transfer, by the way. Or Maiava, excuse me. I don't know if he's got the top end talent. I think Chris Sims called him a first-round pick. I don't know about that one there. But he's been way better this year for the Trojans and is trending towards being an actual NFL caliber draft pick this season. And then number 10 is Drew Aller, the Penn State quarterback, who I would not be surprised if he still ended up going somewhere in the first 2 days because a team's going to talk themselves into the upside, the arm talent, the mobility, the arm strength, in the same way that they talked themselves into Christian Hackenberg. But this was not the year Drew Aller wanted. He could have gone pro, and he probably would have been overdrafted in that quarterback class kind of significantly. Now he's coming off a bad leg injury. We'll see if he's healthy enough for some of the all-star circuit stuff. Didn't look good. None of that is not that it didn't look good. He looked like the same guy he's been in the past. And that's disappointing for Aller and for Penn State and does open up just a bit of a wild card for him in the NFL draft. Some honorable mentions here from Mel Kiper. He mentions Josh Hoover, Talon Green, and favorite story in college football, Trinidad Chambers. I don't know if he can actually play real NFL football at the quarterback spot. Like, he's undersized, he's in the Lane Kiffin offense, but damn, he's fun, man. This is why. How can you not be romantic about college football in Trinidad Chambers? Talon Green is big, upside guy, athletic, but like not a consistent passer. Have been impressed by Josh Hoover. Big 12's got some solid QBs that could see them going back to school. For those of them who are eligible, by the way, including Brendan Sorsby out of Cincinnati, who was bad in week 1, has been a lot better since then. Credit to him. Sawyer Robertson. There's a lot of the guys this year, like, yeah, they show flashes of, like, being a really good quarterback and, like, doing some good things, but, like, not really consistent. Like, Sawyer Robertson looks great against Oklahoma State, lights them up for nearly 400 yards and 4 TDs. Did that against SMU, 440 yards, 4 TDs. Lit up Auburn. Yeah, and then threw 3 picks in a loss against TCU. So, like, he's so inconsistent still, and he's actually not accurate that that guy scares me, by the way. Cade Klubnik out of Clemson, plummeting down the rankings. Every year he got better until this season. It's bad. Luke Altmaier, screams like practice squad quarterback to me. Jalen Daniels, he's fun as well. He and Byron Brown, like, I don't think they're actually NFL quarterbacks, but they're fun. I forget the CBS Sports guy was complaining about the ratings won't be good if you put Georgia Tech against South Florida. Like, are you kidding me? I want to watch Hayes King and Byron Brown ball out. That's awesome. That's what college football's about, baby. Diego Pavia, not an NFL QB. He should be able to play college football as long as he wants to. Go to a new team each year. Have fun with it. Rutgers quarterback has done some inconsistent but promising stuff. Of note, no Arch Manning. I feel like it's more likely he transfers than goes pro right now. Not a hot take. Who do you got on Thursday Night Football? V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Who do you have winning on Thursday Night Football? 57% now are voting in favor of the Chargers. So let me know. V for the Vikings, C for the Chargers. We'll have our watch parties, all that fun stuff. Make sure you guys are subscribed. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Free NFL YouTube videos each and every single day right here on the channel.